5 men cornered a nurse in the park, not knowing she was an undefeated MMA champion. Riverside General knew her as Nurse Dana Cole. Quiet, punctual, never raised her voice. Nobody knew what she used to be. Nobody knew that 3 years ago the name Diamond Dana Reyes had never lost a professional fight. Not one. She kept her hair scraped back and her sleeves down, always. She had learned the fastest way to survive was to make herself small. Tonight, on her walk home through Miller's Park, 5 men stepped out of the shadows and blocked the path in front of her. One of them smiled. "Nowhere to run, sweetheart." She stopped walking. Her hands at her sides went very still. Something in her chest, something she had buried for 3 years, opened its eyes. Before we get into what happened next, welcome to Silent Heroes. If you're watching this tonight, drop a comment and tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you think you know what Dana used to do for a living before nursing, guess it in the comments. You might be surprised. Now back to the park. By day, Dana Cole was the nurse nobody looked at twice. 34 years old, average height, quiet eyes that gave nothing away. She wore scrubs 1 size too big and shoes that made no sound on hospital tile. She had trained herself, deliberately, to walk like she wasn't there. Riverside General sat in the industrial edge of the city, a place of cracked parking lots and buzzing fluorescent light. Dana had worked the night shift in the ER for 2 years. She showed up early, left late, spoke only when spoken to. Nobody at Riverside knew that for 6 years, under the name Dana Reyes, she had stepped into a cage 41 times and walked out a winner 41 times. Nobody knew about the championship belt folded inside a shoebox in the back of her closet, wrapped in a t-shirt so old the print had cracked. Nobody knew why she had walked away from all of it, or why she had chosen, of all things, a hospital name badge over a title belt. She had her reasons. She kept them buried, the way she kept everything buried. Dr. Marcus Whitfield ran the ER like his own personal kingdom. 51 years old, silver at the temples, a voice built for hospital boardrooms. He liked being watched. He liked being right, even when he wasn't. He had a habit of finding Dana in front of other staff and correcting her, loudly, 4 things that didn't need correcting. "Cole, when I want a nurse's opinion, I'll ask for one," he told her once, in front of a full waiting room. "Until then, chart and stay quiet." She said nothing. She never said anything. That was the rule she had made for herself. Do not contradict him, do not mention missed diagnoses, do not make him look small. Old Mr. Petrosian, a widower who came in twice a month for his heart medication, was the only one who ever looked at her twice. "You carry yourself funny for a nurse," he told her one night, squinting at her over his reading glasses. "Like you're used to people trying to hit you." Dana had smiled and changed the subject. But she never forgot he'd said it. The night the sirens screamed through the bay doors, Dana was restocking gauze at the nurse's station. A gurney burst through, a teenage boy on it, seizing, blood at his mouth, his mother screaming behind him. "Overdose, possible seizure disorder, get him stabilized." Whitfield barked, already reaching for the wrong drug. Dana's eyes caught the boy's fingertips, blue at the nail beds. His breathing pattern, shallow and irregular. Not a seizure. Not just an overdose. Respiratory depression. Opioid toxicity. If Whitfield pushes that sedative, his breathing stops in under 2 minutes. "Doctor, wait," she started. "I did not ask, Cole." Whitfield's voice cut across the bay, sharp enough that 2 other nurses flinched. The syringe in his hand was already rising toward the 4-line. The boy's mother screamed his name. And in that instant, Dana Cole heard something she hadn't heard spoken aloud in 3 years. "Diamond," the mother sobbed, gripping her son's other hand, using it like a pet name from childhood. "Diamond, baby, stay with me." The word hit the room like a detonation. Dana's hands, which had been trembling faintly for 3 straight years, a tremor so small only she ever noticed it, went suddenly, completely still. Whitfield's syringe was 2 inches from the foreport. "Dr. Whitfield," Dana said, and her voice had changed. Flat. Certain. A voice that did not ask permission. That's the wrong drug. You give him that, he stops breathing. Whitfield froze, syringe still raised. Excuse me. Naloxone, Dana said, already moving, already reaching past him for the crash cart. Now. Not in a minute. Now. For the first time in 2 years, Dana Cole did not make herself small. Naloxone works by knocking opioids off the brain's receptors, reversing the shutdown of the breathing drive within minutes. In a real overdose, every second matters. Untreated respiratory depression can stop a heart in as little as 3 to 5 minutes. Paramedics and ER staff are trained to recognize the signs: blue lips, pinpoint pupils, shallow or absent breathing. Dana had seen it before, more than once, in places far from any hospital. She pushed the naloxone herself, her hands steady, her spine straight, her voice carrying an authority that silenced the room. The boy's chest hitched. He gasped. Color crept back into his lips. He has a chance, Dana said quietly. The room stared at her like she'd become someone else entirely. In a way, she had. Whitfield's face went red, then white. You overstepped, he hissed. You will explain yourself to the board. No, Dana said. I am just done hiding. By morning, Whitfield had Dana suspended, her badge confiscated, security called to walk her out. A crowd of nurses and even a few patients gathered in the hallway, murmuring, watching him do it. Nobody said a word in his defense. Old Mr. Petrosian, waiting for his own appointment, caught her eye as she passed. He didn't say anything. He just nodded like he'd known all along. 3 days later, a black government sedan pulled into the Riverside parking lot. 2 officers in dress uniform walked through the front doors and asked for Dana Cole by name, then corrected themselves. We're looking for Sergeant Dana Reyes. Whitfield, summoned to explain the suspension, stood frozen as the senior officer read her record aloud in the crowded lobby. Combat medic, 2 tours, a Silver Star, 3 years undefeated in professional competition after her discharge, walking away from it all to serve quietly where she was needed most. This woman saved 12 lives under fire in conditions most of you will never understand, the officer said, and you suspended her for saving a 13th. Whitfield stammered. I didn't know. That's the problem, the officer said. You never asked. What came out next wasn't just embarrassing. It was criminal. Hospital records showed Whitfield had been quietly steering ER patients into an unapproved drug trial funded by a pharmaceutical rep he'd been taking payments from for over a year, falsifying charts, hiding side effects, chasing a bonus instead of outcomes. The overdose teenager had been one of his undisclosed trial subjects. Before the board could finish reviewing the file, one of the rep's associates showed up at Dana's apartment that night, demanding the folder she'd pulled from records as proof. He wasn't alone. What he didn't know was that Dana Reyes hadn't just survived combat. She'd trained her whole adult life to make sure the people she loved never had to. The confrontation was short. It always was with her. She thought of her spotter, a young corpsman named Jimenez, who hadn't made it home from her second tour. She thought of his voice, calm even under fire. Breathe, count, move. 58, she said aloud, checking the intruder's pulse after subduing him. 92 systolic. Stable. 4 Jimenez, she whispered and called the police. Whitfield lost his medical license within the month. The pharmaceutical rep and his associate were arrested and charged. Riverside General opened an internal review that would become, within a year, a model policy for reporting conflicts of interest, quietly named, at the board's insistence, the Cole-Reyes Protocol. Dana was reinstated, then promoted. The hospital gave her something new, a trauma response training program built to combine combat medicine with civilian emergency care. For the first time in 3 years, she didn't have to choose between who she used to be and who she'd become. On her first day running the program, Mr. Petrosian showed up in the observation gallery, grinning. Knew it, he said. You always did carry yourself like a fighter. Dana smiled, a real one, unguarded. Thank you for saying something back then. Not everyone does. Here's what this story really comes down to. The people who seem the quietest are often carrying the heaviest weight, and the ones who look small have usually survived more than we'll ever know. Strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just waits, patiently, for the moment it's needed. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe to Silent Heroes so you never miss the next one. Drop a comment. What would you have done if you were in that park with Dana? The next story is already waiting. The end.